Great. Brilliant. Nice to have you here, Mark.
Thank you.
I'm just muting everyone because a lot of people were unmuted and it's just bad for the sound. But if you ever need to talk to me at any point, unmute yourself. And what I like to do is to, keep yourself muted, but if you need to talk to me, just unmute yourself. It's simple to do. So I always start with a breakout room because so that you feel engaged in the process, so that you're involved in the process. And today is the second session on the creative mind self-meditation practice. And the format is as follows. I'm going to talk a little bit about the whole process and also in particular the second step in the process. Then we're going to do a meditation. Then we're going to go into breakout rooms to debrief on the meditation. And then we'll take questions and answers at the end. For those for whom this is the first time that you've joined me, Creative Mind is based on Steve Gilligan's work, and he was a student of NLP at the very beginning of NLP, and then went and studied with Milton Erickson, the person who brought hypnosis into the 20th century and perhaps also the 21st century. And his work, Steve's work, combines Erickson's work, but also with the work of Jean Gebser, the philosopher, and we'll spend more time on that in session 3 when we look at psychological resources. And simply stated, the creative mind process, the 7-step creative mind process, is a really powerful method for doing psychological practice and resourcing yourself on a daily basis, or whenever you can do it. It's also a fantastic coaching practice and therapy practice, but here we're focusing on using the creative mind process for our own individual meditation practice. Steve says something really powerful, which is he won't accept people as personal clients unless they have a daily practice. It's such an important thing to have a daily meditation practice. And during our time together, we'll talk about how one can do, the main emphasis of the creative mind practice is a psychological practice, broader than just the narrow confines of psychology, but how this can also be combined with a spiritual practice where the main focus is on opening to the field, whereas psychological practice is really about enhancing our resources, even if we use our connection to the field to support ourselves individually. The main focus is resourcing ourselves and helping us get where we want to go in life. And all the research shows that if you have a psychological resourcing practice, a feel-good practice, something that integrates body, mind, emotion, and spirit on a daily basis, the research shows that you'll be more successful, communicate better, have better relationships, take considered risk, so take risk, but not too much. And all of that correlates with more success in the world. And I think last week I talked about the research just a little bit. There's a lot of research that supports the idea that this sort of alignment process that we're doing, bringing all of you into alignment with yourself, is a really powerful way to be in the world, really a recommended way to be in the world. So today is the second session on creative mind. And I just want to talk about the 7 steps, because we have the 7 steps. The first step is to open a generative state, a body, mind, spirit, emotion, communication state, a place where all of those levels within yourself are integrated, because you are more than just your intellect. And the educational systems have trained us to focus on our intellect, but actually we're much more than our intellect. When we have this sort of integration where we're going to be in flow, we're going to be much more in flow with ourselves and the activities in which we're engaged. So last week, the first step, we used 2 processes to talk about how you create that integrated meditation step. The first one, I invoked the sky, and the ground. So feeling the connection through the central channel of the body between the sky and the ground. And we spent quite a few minutes on that. And then after that, we talked about the center, dropping down towards our center in your belly, being in your belly. And at the very least, that's where so much of the psychological, emotional processes happen in the belly. So if we're breathing down into the belly, we're really connecting with our emotional and psychological processes in a somatic, bodily engaged way. And then I also talked about the heart. For me, my center is more the heart than the belly. And it doesn't, it's great to have both. I have both. Steve's done an Aikido practice, so martial art Aikido. I've done the same practice as well. And that's about dropping your hips and really being solidly in your center. And a meditation process that's up into the sky needs also to be down into the earth and down into the belly and down into your body. So just a simple process of breathing in and out into your belly and back out again is a great meditation process. Then I included in the meditation last week the thought that you could remember a time when you were in a deeply connected state with yourself. And that really is, a great method. The best method for getting this generative state, this body-mind connection state, is to use the method that you are most familiar with and that works best for you. So it could be to remember a time or a place where you were really connected with yourself. It could be to go through a meditation type of ritual that you have, perhaps on some, religious saint or deity or archetypal form, or a body meditation, creating a habit of meditating so that you are more deeply connected in yourself and also more broadly connected to the field. So hypnosis focuses a lot on, the deep in connection with the unconscious and with the body. And I love the way that Steve includes broadening experience. So if I want to have a sense of the field, so if I want to have a sense of everything that exists, that everything that's in my awareness, if my eyes are open, of course, I may be able to see the horizon. I may be able to see a long distance from myself. If my eyes are closed, then I can listen to the sounds in the room. I can hear the sounds in the street. I can listen to sounds in the house. I have a sense of being a part of a much bigger space than just myself. So those are two key elements. One key element is down deeper into yourself, and the other is broadening wider. And of course, in Buddhism, the Mahayana Meditations are all about imagining sending blessings to the whole of the world. You can imagine the whole of the field, which is the whole of the earth, all the communities on the earth, all your ancestors, everything in the natural world. Your imagination can take you to the end of the cosmos and to the beginning of time. Perhaps, though, the most important thing is to really stay present with what's happening in the moment. Awareness of the present moment is the Buddha, said one great Buddhist teacher. So awareness of the present moment is the Buddha. It's as simple as that. So my strongest recommendation is that for that generative state, you use the process that works best for you. If you've got a strong meditation practice, then use that meditation practice. If you haven't got one and are developing one, then use some of the suggestions that I've talked about. And in fact, today I'm going to do a very, very simple meditation practice that I use a lot because it's so simple and easy. A simple structure produces a good result. So the main focus of today will be the second step, which is setting an intention. What is your intention? What do you want from the meditation? Or what does life want from you today? And I will talk more about that in a minute. I'm just going to finish, complete the model, and then go into a little bit more detail into the second step of the model. Then the third step is psychological resources. And the simple way that, that many of you will already know is you imagine all those people who believe in you and love you and believe in your potential. And perhaps they believe in very specific things. They might believe in, your ability to write, or your ability to face the tasks that you have to do, or your ability to have relationships. And so having a circle of supporters who you can call upon in your inner world to support you psychologically is extremely powerful. And there are other sorts of inner resource. Strengths is an inner resource, knowing what your strengths are and imagining your strengths. And also every moment of your life when you were in the flow is a resource. Sometimes I think I should run a whole course just on trawling through all the memories of your life and drawing out and highlighting and putting in the foreground of your mind all the experiences that you've ever had, that where you were in the flow, where you were communicating well, where you were resourceful, where you were happy. And so every moment of your life, particularly the resourceful ones, is a resource, is empowering. And of course, later on, we'll talk about how you turn the obstacles into resources, but that's a bigger conversation. The fourth step is so that if I'm in a generative state, if I'm in a body-mind connected state, I've got an intention. Either there's something that I'm working on over a period of time, but it might be an intention for today. And then I've got the resources, inner resources that support me today. There may be a feeling of nervousness or can I do this? Or some obstacle comes up. And the essential process that we'll go into as the sessions progress, the essential process is first to welcome the difficulty, the obstacles, the emotional feeling, the historic feeling, whatever it happens to be, or the challenging individual or the challenging circumstance, to welcome that, and then to keep increasing your resources until you've got enough resources to deal with that situation. That's the essential model. And then so step 5 is how you weave together, you integrate, you bring the resources to support, to bear on the difficulty. And the resources may be quite subtle, like resources of really understanding the positive intention of the obstacle, or really understanding your resistance to change, or dialoguing with a part of yourself that needs to be included more fully, that you haven't been very good at including. I mean, a typical example is our vulnerability. In the modern world, we're often not so good at including our vulnerability, but when we share our vulnerability with another person, it touches their heart and helps them feel connected. But so how come we so often hide our vulnerability rather than share it? A good technique for someone who's nervous about public speaking is you have them stand on the platform and you have them say, I'm really nervous about doing this, but what I have to talk about is really important to me. A person who does that grabs the audience within the first 10 seconds. And so we'll come to more of these as we go through the steps with each session, because each session is covering one of these steps. We're now on session 2, but I'm going to overview all 7 steps at the beginning of each session. So finally, once we have it integrated, it's quite a simple process, but it's really imagining, seeing, hearing, and feeling us bringing this combination of state, generative state, positive intention, resources that hold any difficulty that we have, really bringing that forward into our lives, whether it's through imagining ourselves today acting from this place, or whether it's imagining ourselves over the course of the days and weeks that come acting from this place. So it's what they call in NLP future pacing. You take it into the future, you connect these experiences with the situations where you want to have these experiences in the future. And the final step always to consider is how am I going to do this tomorrow? You know, how will I meditate tomorrow? How will I make this a daily practice? It's not, you know, in the old days, the sort of the psychotherapy gurus, you know, the idea was that you could, you know, do half an hour with a psychotherapy guru and everything would be changed in your life. Actually, I think the real wisdom is to say, you know, a psychotherapy guru may be able to help you have a daily practice that changes your life. So that's the 7 steps. And of course, we'll repeat them again in the meditation when I'll lead you through them in the meditation. And over the course of the 7 sessions, you'll do this meditation quite a few times. What I want to just talk about for a moment is the 2nd step, which is your intention. And there are 2 ways of thinking about your intention. So the question is the purpose of the meditation in the, you know, if you're doing a morning practice, let's say that, is the purpose of that morning practice to just set you up for the day? So I have a daily practice. I use my morning practice to help me flow through the day. And so then my intention may be about, very often my intention is just to be aligned in myself. So that's all my attention is. If I can start the day aligned in myself, I'm going to do pretty well for the rest of the day. But if there was something stressful or high performance happening during the course of the day, I might have an intention around my emotional state or my communication or you know, the way that I empathize or connect or listen. So I might have a more specific intention for the day. I love for us to ask the question, not what do I want today, but what does life want from me today? Turning that around. I think that really touches the soul more, it touches the body more, it touches the heart more. But whatever the case, we can have an intention for how it is we want to be today. And creative mind and also positive psychology as well proposes that if you get your emotional state right, most of the other stuff will work itself out. So it's really, you know, advised that we focus on an intention around our psychological, emotional, body-mind integration state. Because if I'm aligned in myself, I'm going to make good choices, aren't I? I'm going to respond to challenge better. But of course, you know, we have some choice around that. And so the second area of intention that I just want to mention is that if you're in some psychological or spiritual growth process or some big change process in your life or some transition, there may be something that you're growing over a period of months, you know, some change that you want to sustain or support. And so, you know, it would be a great practice to remember the psychological and spiritual resources that you have that will support you during the course of that change process. So you might come back to a very similar meditation every day to remind yourself of those resources. So when you've done, you know, you've practiced developing your resources, you might have, you know, some of your best teachers who really believe in you. You're imagining them, you're hearing their voices, you're you know, you're feeling how that feels. You might have some spiritual characters there. You can choose whoever you want, whoever inspires you, you can have. In the creative mind model, and we'll come to more to this next week, you can call on nature, you can call on your ancestors, you can call on other dimensions of consciousness. And so having that set of resources, if you're in a change process, you call up your team, you call up your A-team every day. And so there's 2 slightly different ways of having an intention in a daily practice. And then, of course, the key principle is that your intention should be, you know, Steve says 5 words or less. Robert Dilts in generative coaching will say the same thing. It's the same in both the generative change model and in the creative mind model. So because you want it short, you don't want a long intellectual sentence. You want something that's quite short and pithy that you can feel in your body. You want to see it. You want to imagine yourself having it. You want to feel it emotionally. So you have the words, you see it, you feel it. And it can be really helpful to have a physical gesture of achieving that goal. So that, my meditation practice has always been, I've done a lot of sitting meditation, Buddhist meditation. I tend to sit quite still, but actually sometimes it's just really good. You can't quite see, but, to put my arms out, to do a physical gesture of some sort. And so I really recommend, and it could be quite small. It could just be an opening. It could just be a little opening, because it physicalizes it. You want it in the body. If you just want to be intellectual, you can just change it in your head. But just because you know the answer to something in your head doesn't mean your body's going to follow, does it? So therefore, it has to be body, mind, emotion, and spirit. It has to particularly be somatic in your body and supported in your emotions. So that's really that's the key, that it's a full, what we call a full representation. You see it, you hear it, and you feel it, and then you can really, what it is that you want. And then, of course, when you've done that, you then ask for the resources, except, of course, it may be that your breath gets short or the obstacles come up before the resources. And to be quite honest, it doesn't really matter which way round it is. The resources come first, that's easier. That's the third step in the model. Noticing any unwelcome feelings or feelings that you find difficult or vulnerability is the fourth step. Sometimes the obstacles come up first. But whatever the case, by the fifth step, you're weaving them around. You're making sure that you've got more resources. So an important aspect of creative mind is that when you apply enough resources to something, a difficulty or a challenge or an emotional obstacle or some wound within yourself, that wound within yourself will eventually become a resource as well. So everything's a resource. Some of it just needs a little bit more processing before it becomes a resource. So I don't want to talk much more than that, but any questions specifically before I take you into the meditation? Any questions on the meditation process? I will lead you through all the steps. I'm hoping that by the end of the 7 steps, you will just know them by heart. We will probably produce some audios so that you can listen to, you can use the meditations from these sessions on the audio, but already last week's session was in the newsletter on Saturday and it'll be in this Saturday's newsletter as well. So each week, the previous Wednesday session will be available, the video will be available. But any questions at this point? Anybody, Linda's just asked, how do I get the newsletter? You will be on if you've come to this Zoom, you're on the mailing list. If you signed up since last Saturday, no, if I put your contact details onto the newsletter tonight, so you'll get the one on the next Saturday if you haven't had it already, basically. Any unmute yourself and ask questions, or put your hand up if you want to. The reaction, actually, usually it's in breakout rooms, or the reaction button, or you can just unmute and speak if you have a question. Great. Linda.
Yes, I really liked what you were talking about, future pacing.
Yeah.
Right? And what that brought to mind is that sometimes there's a lot of goals out in the future, right? And is it a possibility to reach out there and collapse the future into the present?
This is, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
It's a very NLP question, but the answer is yes.
Okay, and there should be a direct experience of having it now, right? Emotionally, physically,
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just have an image of a goal in the future, that's you know, you need to connect it into the present.
Right. So if we set an intention, you know, that.
To feel it in your body now, to feel it in your body.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to connect that into the intention that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right now.
So that it's a goal. You want to have it in your body right now. It's not just it's a goal that you're committed to in your body right now, which is why you check it through in your body right now.
Kind of like a person is going to bring me a convertible to look at this afternoon at 3:00. And so that's my intention is to, you know, look at this and decide, make a decision. Do I want it, you know, and what I feel like when I see that car, right? And so what I'm trying to do this morning is take that 3:00 experience and experience it now.
Yes.
Right?
And really check out for yourself, what is the feeling I want in response to this car? I mean, there may be cognitive criteria, you know, to do with how the car works, and is there enough headroom, or any, you know, there may be some cognitive criteria, but there may also be somatic feeling, emotional criteria as well. And to know what those are now, so that when you get there, you've sort of rehearsed your process of the decision making when you get there.
Right. I just don't want to make a decision out of, you know, just nowhere in the moment. Yeah, I want to be able to.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good. Cornelia.
Julian, it occurred to me recently that in terms of making intentions and more midterm, long-term goals, it just occurred to me that I don't know what I want. And and what I think is what I want, you know, I'm very sure, oh yes, this is what I'm going to do, but I'm realizing that's not necessarily it. And then looking back, all the things that I had done that I absolutely loved, I felt like this is who I was and felt the best, were things that for years I was rejecting. Oh, I don't want to be a teacher. Oh, I don't want to be a mother. You know, and then it just happened, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel alive, I feel whatever. So, you know, this intention setting thing, and
well, turn it around. I mean, you know, it's a very high. I mean, Buddhist master he doesn't want anything except for the present moment, or she doesn't want anything. You know, so if you don't want anything, just be present in the present moment, in the flow of the present moment. Yeah, we've got 3 people who've got their hands up, so we'll come to you in order. But sorry, I wasn't talking to you, Cornelia. I was talking to the other people. So, you know, so if you don't want anything, then that's a real state of grace. This sort of American, particularly American, but Western, you know, what are your goals? Where are you going? You know, it's great it's fine to want to go somewhere and have lots of goals. It's also fine just to be present and to savor the present moment. So that's the other side. But then just coming back to you, Cornelia, what you could do in the meditation practice is just to ask yourself a question like, what does life want from me today? What does life want from me today? But actually, even simpler than that, you could just say, what I want right now is to be aligned in myself. You know, that's a beautiful practice.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes me think that everything we've done in the Creative Mind program and with you is things come to me when I'm in coach state. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. And it seems like I become more clear about what direction I'm being pulled in, and things are coming to me that I didn't think were kind of what I thought would be cool and what I would want.
So there's a whole spectrum of possibility, you know, so the unconscious is a quantum field, is infinite possibility, and these tools can be used in an infinite amount of ways. So at one extreme, we can have someone who's going to a job interview to be CEO, and he's he or she's trying to get themselves in the right state, and they're doing the practice to get themselves aligned for that meeting, you know. Or you could have someone who, you know, who's using the meditation to support creating their new business, you know. So that's very practical stuff. You could use exactly the same process as a Buddhist master who says the only thing I want to do is to commit to the present moment. My whole intention is just to be in the flow of the present moment. And that my intention in this session is just to welcome every little corner of myself. And
that feels good to me.
Same technique, same method will work for either. You know, it just depends what you want. In fact, I personally believe that if I can welcome every aspect of myself, when a person starts on the psychotherapy journey, there's a lot of content, of story to talk about, but there is some stuff that is down in the muscle that is from pre-verbal times, and possibly, you know, you're carrying material from your ancestors, your emotional difficulty from your ancestors. You may not know what it is. It's only beginner level psychotherapy to know, to have words to describe it. Sometimes at the somatic level, you know there's a physical pain in your body, and all you need to do is to bring loving attention to it. That's really like an advanced somatic method. So when you sit and meditate in the morning, you don't, you may say, oh, I've got a pain in my stomach. I was doing this yesterday, I had a pain in my stomach, but like an emotional pain, just above my solar plexus. And I just brought my heart to it. My intention was to spend some time bringing my heart to it. So, you know, just follow your process. Just get yourself in the flow. Everything else will work out for you, Cornelia. It's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is Iris. Sophie Vise is highlighting people, so it's great. So thank you. Hi, Iris, what's your question?
Yeah, just a quick feedback about to tell you I like the meditation you lead us to do. I've done a lot of different types of meditation, and you lead me to do a couple of weeks ago is 4 things, 3 things, 2 things, and 1 thing. And last night I prepared a speech international conference today. I went to bed at 1 a.m. But I was excited, couldn't sleep. I thought, oh yeah, must sleep. And I tried the meditation for 3, 2, 1. It's fantastic.
Right.
Just give you a quick feedback. I'm looking forward to do more meditation with you. Thank you.
I thought about doing that meditation again this week. It's the Betty Erickson method. And it's just seeing some things, seeing 4 things, hearing 4 things, and feeling 4 things. It's just quite nice to have a little process. Just something that takes us away from our internal dialogue and down into our bodies and our senses. So I'm going to use that as the meditation today. Another week, I'll do a meditation where it's always dangerous, but I'll do a meditation where you think of a spiritual figure. You know, you could do that. Although the only problem is that I'd have, you know, some people are so anti-religion that you say, well, you know, you could have Donald Duck as your spiritual figure, or you could have, you know, probably not Donald Duck, but who would be, you know, a childhood hero, you know, Spider-Man or something. So there are many, many different methods. In Buddhism, they say there's 84,000 different methods, but I don't think anybody's actually counted to 84,000. You know? Yeah, I think it's a metaphorical number rather than an actual number. Thank you, Iris.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, great. So let's go to the meditation, because actually what we'll find is that questions and answers after the meditation and after your group sharing will be more interesting, you know, more informed than questions now. So I am going to use the paying attention to the senses meditation from Betty Erickson, Milton Erickson's daughter, 4-3-2-1. And some of you who have been on my, these Wednesday workshops a lot will have done this, you know, quite a number of times. And, you know, keeping things simple, if you rehearse the same meditation, you know, 15, 20 times, then when you sit on your mat, or you sit in your chair, or you sit on the bus, or you sit in the airport, and you take yourself through it, you have a little bit of a habit around it. You created like a psychological groove. So I'm quite like, let's keep things simple. Let's have a basic, simple practice that takes us in quickly. But at the same time, can I say to anyone here who's got a meditation process that works better for you, you can do that. You can tune me out and use your own practice for taking yourself more deeply into connection with yourself. So I don't actually, when I'm doing this myself, I don't actually count the numbers. Sometimes I say, here 4 things, and I'll actually mention 5 things. It's a pathway. So notice 4 things that you see. Actually, even before that, just notice what you see, notice what you hear, notice what you feel, make yourself comfortable. That's even an earlier step. Just really bring yourself to the present moment, away from your thoughts. Or at least your thoughts can be here, but they're only one of the things that you're experiencing. And so just notice the temperature of the air, how your body is sitting, the sounds in your environment, and what it is that you see. If your eyes are open, you can just put your eyes, focus on a single spot in front of you, and then defocus your eyes, go into peripheral vision. So then if I say see 4 things, you don't have to move your eyes. Your eyes stay focused on one spot, but in the surrounding area, you can notice 4 different things. And actually the process of defocusing and attending to peripheral vision gets us more deeply connected with ourselves. That itself takes us deeper. And so then I can listen for 4 things. And again, I have a little habit around that. I listen outside the building. Can I hear sounds from outside? And for me, the sound of no sound, the sound of silence, is a sort of sound. And you can listen in the building, and you can listen in the room, and you can listen in your body, breathing, heart, and you can observe your inner dialogue. If there's an inner voice, listen to that voice like you would listen to someone at a party or a networking meeting. You can listen to it, but you don't have to believe what it's saying. You can just be interested and curious, but it's not you. It's just one of the things in your experience. And then we can feel 4 things. So it's great to feel one place on your skin, whether it's air temperature or clothing, to feel a particular muscle in your body, and to feel into the trunk of your body between your throat and your pelvis, and notice a sensation. Then we felt skin, muscle, and emotional sensation, viscera. And then you can pick one more thing to feel. And then 3 things we see. And if your eyes are closed, it'll be in your mind's eye. Of course, there can also be, if your eyes are closed, the darkness of your eyelids and also specks of light on your eyelids. Don't worry if you're seeing 2 things or 5 things. The number is just a guide. And then we listen again. 3 things to hear. And then feel 3 things and choose 3 different things. And then notice 2 things. Hear 2 things. Feel 2 things. See 1 thing. Hear 1 thing. Feel 1 thing. And I like to pay attention to my breathing. It's a good place to put my attention. Noticing the breath going in through my nose, down into my heart, down into my belly. So many sensations. And back out again. And I like to think of somebody who really believes in me, cares about me, believes in my potential. A friend, maybe a teacher from long ago or a present teacher, someone who's looked you in the eye and said yes. See their face. Hear their voice. Feel how that feels. Feel that in your heart. When I feel that in my heart opens. So then I can take this feeling in my heart, this feeling of caring, of love to all of myself, bringing my tender heart to myself to welcome myself in this moment. And what's my intention right now? Perhaps it's just an intention for this session. Just a few words, perhaps a feeling. If it's in the future, you're seeing yourself with it. Seeing yourself having achieved it. I could just say, oh, I imagine myself being aligned at the end of this meditation process. Feeling how that would feel. And perhaps having some gesture, slight movement that represents that for you. So it's really an experience in your body. Just for fun, let's ask the other question. What does life want from me right now? Then we can go to step 3, which is resources. So let's start with, who is your circle of supporters? Who do you imagine standing around you? And if you're new to this, it may just be a single figure comes to mind. Or I'd love this person as my inner supporter. And you might see their face, hear them speaking to you, see the whole of them. You may see the whole of their body, hear them speaking to you, and just feel how that feels when they say words of support. And you can go as slowly or as fast as you like. And if you're ready, you can introduce another person to the circle of supporters. Over a few weeks, if you did this exercise every day, you might end up with 12 people around you. And if you did it for a year, you could end up with half a football field. But we start with the first one, and then we go to the second, and so forth. It's such a beautiful process. I once had a teacher who, I don't even remember his name at this point, but he looked me in the eye and he said something to me and it touched my heart. I can't even quite visualize him, but I can feel that energy and I can see a sort of shape, and that's enough. Or my dear friend, or your dear friend. Or a psychology teacher that you've interacted with, and there was just a moment that was when you were seen. And that's enough. And this could just be an enjoyable process of populating our soul, our inner field, the campfire of our mind, inviting supporters, people, pets, spiritual figures. People that you've met and people that you haven't met. I have Nelson Mandela in my circle of supporters. This is just a really enjoyable process that you can do now, and you can do sitting in your garden or when you're relaxing. And what's so great about this process is this circle of supporters is portable. Wherever you go, wherever you are, this circle of supporters can be there. This person, group can be there. So when you remember your intention and you feel your circle, your resources, your circle of support, and feeling in your heart from that circle of support, is there any difficulty that comes up, any wobble, any waver? Anything that's vulnerable and delicate may not even be difficult. It may just be vulnerable and needs holding. Like a little baby duckling that's lost its mum. Or a younger place in yourself. Some place in you that needs loving. We welcome our vulnerability. We welcome our feelings. The problems start when we push feelings away. So we just, anything in you that needs to be held, loved. Just bringing love and care from yourself and your supporters will have a healing impact or a supportive impact. Sometimes more is needed. Sometimes there's a conversation needed, a relationship to build. That if there's a part of you that you've banished, perhaps you need to welcome them back into the fold. Find a constructive way of including them. And if you find that you need more resources, then hey presto, who do you need? Milton Erickson by your side. Do you need a great master? Do you need Fritz Perls or Virginia Satir? You can call on anyone you need. Who is wise enough to support you? You see them, you can hear their words, but most important of all, feel their presence. Feel their presence and feel how that feels being in their presence. And it may just be enough to bring loving kindness. Or you may be at the start of building a relationship over a period of time. If you haven't been friends with this part of you, well, maybe you need tea on the first occasion, a bit of a chat on the second occasion. Maybe you need to have lots of dates. Only connect, only relate. But it's sweet. So hopefully you can have the experience of not only bringing love and connection and kindness and tenderness to this place in yourself, but also you can appreciate yourself for doing this. What if welcoming all the aspects of yourself was the secret of life? So we're now doing the weaving process, weaving it all together. And you could do this for as long as you want in your own daily practice. Sometimes I will just sit bringing love and welcome and tenderness to a place in me for a long period of time. And then whatever the stage that you've got to in terms of new relationship, new connection, new welcoming, new resourcefulness, you can just imagine having this, whether it's for the course of today or whether it's for the days and weeks that come. You can imagine moving forward into the future through whatever experiences you need to face, carrying forward any learnings from this process, from this exercise, from this meditation. Being in the world with this level of integration and connection. Perhaps you may imagine practicing this again and deepening this connection so that what you imagine in the future is a growing depth of connection, holding yourself, resources, flowing into your intention, flowing with your intention. And then final step, we can think about, would it be great to continue this tomorrow? And do I do a meditation tomorrow that's more of just repeating this meditation or taking it deeper? Or might I want to meditate on something else, but build the habit of meditation day by day? How do I grow this process? How do I develop this connection with myself? If there's any work, inner alignment, inner conversation that you haven't done today, then just imagine doing it tomorrow or in the next meditation session. Find a time, a place in the future to continue this work, to do this work. Sometimes the resource might be, if you're on the Creative Mind program, to find a peer coach to support you, or if you're on the Life Talent program, to find someone in the group to do this exercise with you, or a colleague or a friend from generative coaching or wherever. Sometimes it's helpful to have another person lead you. So as you think about how you take this forward, it can be in your own self-practice meditation or with the support of a friend or a colleague. So when you're ready, just keep yourself deeply connected, but just gradually reorientate to the screen so that you're aware of all the people that are here. And I'm going to put you into groups of 3 or 4. And in the groups of 4, you'll get, so the exercise is 30 minutes. In the groups of 4, you'll have 7 minutes per person. In the groups of 3, you'll have 10 minutes per person. I will time the groups of 4. The groups of 3 need to time themselves. And the question is, how was the meditation for me? And how can I take this deeper in the future? How can I resource myself more fully in the future? So how was this meditation for me? And how can I take this deeper in the future? And rooms are opening now. Oh, I'll say something about it. So one person talks for 7 minutes in the group of 4 or 10 minutes in the group of 3. The others listen. You can say, tell me more, but you cannot give them advice. You cannot tell them what to do. You just listen, you empathize. Don't, if you're not talking, if you're not the one who's speaking, really pay attention. Don't go away and think you can go to the loo or make yourself a cup of tea or fiddle with your phone. Just really give them a high level of attention. So we've got 30 minutes starting now. Join your room now. Things you have to let go of when you're learning. One of the things you have to learn to do when you're doing these sorts of meditations is to let go of it being too cognitive, and just to allow feelings to arise from inside your body, and just sort of go with the flow of it. Sometimes things will arise that you hadn't even thought of or you hadn't even considered. There may be parts of you that are making themselves known that, that your rational mind doesn't quite know what that's about. So, so that's fine. What other comments, other questions? How was it for you? Have you got any questions?
It's lovely, Julian. Thank you very much. And I think it's the presence. It's your presence and the presence of the group.
Lean a little closer to your microphone.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was saying that it's lovely, your presence and the presence of the group, and then the intention of it also inspires a lot. And it gives this sense of settling in and settling down, and to just be.
One of the most important things about the creative mind work is just the emphasis on your internal state. Your generative state is going to is the biggest and most useful impact on the generative state of the people that you're with. and that if you lead a group in that, then the group gets a great generative state, and then everybody gets held by the field. And it's such an important lesson in life. So much of the time we're being cognitive. Actually, very often, the best we can do is just bring a really connected, empathic state to the person that we're interacting with. And they're going to pick up on that. And that will, just your generative state will impact the generative state of the person that you're talking to in any situation. So, you know, one of the really important things about generative change, generative coaching, and also creative mind is that, you know, so much of coaching is sort of cognitive. You know, the coaching field, all the established organizations are very cognitive. And actually, creative mind and generative coaching are saying something different. Get the state, that will impact the state of the person that you're with. Get yourself in a body-mind state, help the other person get in a body-mind connected state. And then something can happen. But that's really beautiful, Johan. But I particularly want to focus on insights about your own self-practice, and questions for me about self-practice. Also, any suggestions for improvement? You know, in a sense, I'm trying to talk to everybody. Yeah.
I'd add that maybe perhaps less cognitive and more being.
What's more cognitive and less cognitive and more being?
Like in my practice, I would say, where it is, am I still there? Yeah.
Go on.
In the practice, sometimes it starts being cognitive, but then the sooner it becomes more than non-thinking or in the just being with curiosity to what might pop up in this field and scenario around me, and what does it mean or what does it symbolize, and just be in that state of wonder. I think that is something that is I enjoy a lot, and I think without trying to make a lot of interpretation, but just that sense of wonder.
Yeah, just bringing presence and curiosity and love. Yeah, beautiful. Who else wants to speak?
Can I say something, Julian? Is that
Go on,
okay?
Anita.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I was really resistant to start with and thought, oh my God, there's all of these highly intelligent people on this call talking about really deep things. I'm not quite sure I'm in the right place. And then you discovered we're all dumb and unintelligent, and you felt more relaxed. But then as we went through the process, I kind of relaxed, and my intention was around connecting myself with the world. And what was really wonderful is that through the breakout session, I actually did that, and it was just a lovely relighting of that connection with those three people. And what that's done has made me more committed to wanting to do this. So it was just very enlightening. So yeah. So I'm not that bad after all, I don't think. I'm okay.
It's, you know, and we make a joke of it, but actually it's really important. So part of the generative process, the creative mind process, would be to welcome the part of you that feels bad or thinks that other people are superior, to welcome that, to put your arms around it and love it and say, well, this isn't the adult me, this is the kid me, or this, what happened in the past that made me feel like this, and how can I bring my wise adult mind, my warm, tender heart to hold this place in myself, and so that then that place in you doesn't dominate, you know, that you support your wise adult mind and your warm, tender heart and your resources in being stronger than the place that was wounded in the past with negative messages. And probably, you know, in a moment, actually, yeah, let's go back. We'll go back to view of everybody. Let's do that, Sophie, to gallery view. And everybody who's got a voice that undermines you, wave your hand if you've got a voice that undermines you, you know, and that includes me. So, you know, so everybody has a voice that undermines them. The question is, what do you do next? And so that's what, you know, the daily practice is about, is accessing your resources and pushing away that voice works. You know, it's a short, very, very short term. Sometimes you just have to do it. But a better longer term solution is to hear the voice, to say, welcome, I know you, and to work with that part of you where that voice comes from, and find a way of soothing it, of building a relationship with it, of supporting it. And longer term, you may actually have to go back to the place in your past where you were wounded, you know, where somebody said lots of negative things to you and you ended up thinking lots of negative things about yourself. And you have to go back to that child of 4 or 5 or 3 or 7 or wherever it was and say, this is, the messages you were getting were not healthy messages. You are a beautiful child. You know, you deserve love. You are competent. You learn quickly. These messages are not helpful. You have to go back and reparent that place in yourself. So, so that's one part of the process. The other part is that when you hear the negative voice, you can always, you know, you welcome that wounded part of you, because a negative voice is not helpful at all. There's nothing helpful in a negative voice, but you can welcome that wounded part of you, and then you can say, and even though I hear your distress, I'm not going to act on this basis. So you begin to, in CBT, in cognitive psychology, they call it disputing. You dispute the voice. You've got to get really good at recognizing when a little bit of software is starting to run the show that really isn't really from present time. You know, you know, it's such a sad thing, isn't it? It really is the great tragedy, one of the great tragedies of many great tragedies of being human. But one of the great tragedies is that a child is so good at learning, and they learn all the really great stuff that's modeled for them, and they pick it up so quickly. But that's the great thing, and the tragedy is that they can't discriminate between the great stuff and the rubbish, the bad stuff. And so then they take in all these messages, because, you know, and our parents weren't bad. Well, most of our parents weren't bad people. That's, you know, but they may have been stressed. They may have been wounded themselves. They had stuff going on in their lives. They may have said things that they shouldn't have said, or spoken in tones of voice that were, you know, abusive language that was handed down from, not even, you know, handed down from their parents and their grandparents. And often it's not abusive language, it's something much more subtle. You know, the person trying to correct you when you're 4 years old, you know, the person, you know, it's so often in China, you know, it's sort of, I've taught a lot in China, and you come in and you say, the kid comes and says, I got an A in class. And the father says, why didn't you get a double A? You know, and that all of those subtle messages will undermine us. And most of us have some of that, a performance system, rather than the belief that we naturally grow and learn. You know, you think about the way you learn to walk, or you watch a child learning to walk, they stand up, they fall down, they stand up, they fall down, they stand up, they fall down, they stand up, fall down. Then they take a few steps and they fall down. It's all, you know, it's through experimentation. We're just great at learning, but we don't necessarily learn at the speed or in the way that other people required us to learn. So Anita, it's really beautiful that you shared that with us. And thank you for letting me use it as an example. And that we have to be very tender. It's two things: to be really tender with that wounded place in ourselves and bring love and bring healing to that place in ourselves. And at the same time, get really clear when, you know, the negative voice is taking over the show. And then being able to say, I hear that, and it's not true about me now. It's not true about the world. So thank you, Anita. That's really beautiful. Really, really great to have you here. I'll take one more question, and I'll have to give a brief answer to it, if there is one more question. Clive. You have to unmute yourself, Clive. Clive from Brighton.
In the meditation, I was thinking of people that were important to me, who had supported me and created the flow feeling that is so important, but felt that most of them were unavailable to me. And it was only
So let me stop you, Clive. Yeah. They're available to you in your mind's eye.
Well, I mean, some of them are dead. Yes. Okay. But in the breakout, it was only in the breakout that I realised that it was for me to go to them and let them know that they were that important to me.
Yes.
And to give them the opportunity to be more so, and indeed to be so for them.
Are you talking about someone who's dead?
No. People who are around, but where that isn't an ongoing support for whatever reason, but maybe that's because they don't realise how important they have been. And yeah. if I don't tell them, they're not going to know. So I'm going to speak to them and say, let's have a cup of coffee, and I want you to know that not only do I value your friendship, but you're important in this way as well.
Really important. Thank you, Clive. I'm going to just give a very brief answer to that. So there's two things. There is, you can have people as internal resources, including dead people. You know, keep, whether they're alive or dead, you can keep them close to you in your inner world. You know, I can keep my mentors close to me all the time, whether they're alive or dead. And that's a much bigger topic than we can do in 5 minutes. And the other thing is, of course, if there are people in the world who have been are really important to you, it's really, really great to tell them that they're important to you, to reach out. And some people, you know, knowing you, Clive, I know you're one. You're someone who can, reaching out is a good thing. You know, we don't just sit cross-legged on our cushion meditating. As a result of creating a generative state, let's take action in the world. And, you know, if you go reach out to people and let them know that they're important to you, that will be such a beautiful, you know, a beautiful thing. I'd like to go back to gallery view with everybody, and I want everybody to unmute their, turn their microphones off, and then just sort of slightly chaotically, one after another, say a word about how you're feeling.
Good.
Ooh.
Beautiful, deep,
Wonderful.
delighted,
Wonderful. Peaceful, dynamic.
Appreciative too.
Very
Good. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Peaceful, dynamic. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you, friends. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye.
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 Julian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here or here.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Akim.
Hi, Julian, and thank you.
Selena. Nice to have you here, Selene. Great to have you.